What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Shane Mallory, joined by my co-host,
Ricky DaCosta.
and we're here for another episode of
Run It Back.
That's right, baby. We're running it back. Episode 5 is coming at you live right now, all right? Episode 4, obviously, was a big, stir-crazy episode. Got a lot of people talking, especially about that Dolphins
Outrageous
team.
comment you made? That outrageous comment?
Yep.
Let the people know now, should I get the egg? Are you ready for it?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Right? Is he ready for it? I think he's ready for it.
The egg is not going to come out yet. It's not going to come out yet.
70 points?
I need one more game.
Points.
And I think this game this weekend, our game of the week that we'll talk about in the picks
America, I'm
later.
going to tell you this. The Dolphins win, the egg is coming.
I never said no to the egg either, too. I'll take it like a man. But I want to see if they can go and beat a legitimate team this weekend. I'm talking about the Buffalo Bills up in Buffalo, who's turned their season around drastically within the last 2 weeks. They're 2-1 right now, one of the best defenses in the NFL. If the Dolphins can get through that test, then maybe the egg comes out early and I say, listen, after the first quarter of the season, the Dolphins are for real. But let's talk about that. Is game the right word? Because, I mean, to me, what I saw on the television was close to a massacre.
It was a beatdown.
It was a beatdown. 70 points. It says only third team in NFL history to score 70 points.
3 points away from the all-time record. The Dolphins were a little classy.
And they could have done it.
They could have kicked the field goal. Yeah. But you know what? They did not. Even though, right, they fired Vic Fangio.
Sure.
A little bit of a revenge game, right?
Sure.
So they could have really rubbed it in. But I think 70 points was enough as kicking the ass.
I mean, listen, the Dolphins just, their offense, the one thing I will say about them right now is you can't be denied, their offense just looks so fast. Everybody that's playing defense against them looks like in slow motion. Now.
Do you realize somebody was missing?
Yes, Jalen Waddle was missing.
Okay.
But that's not
and you're still not ready to commit?
That's not the cheetah. I will say this, too. As great as Tua is playing, and I don't want to take anything away from him, if I were to step outside the quarterback position for just a brief moment, if we were actually like judging the MVP on like a person who has the most impact on their team, I honestly think that outside of quarterback, Tyreek Hill is the most valuable player in the National Football League. And the reason I say that is going back even to that Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, the one that he first won with them. Obviously, he was the most dynamic weapon and playmaker on their offense. And he goes to Miami right now. And it's a team that's kind of meddling, not sure what it's been doing over the years to last 2 years, one of the most prolific offenses in the league. So what are your thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I will sprinkle in Micah Parsons.
Okay.
Ultimately, you got to think about defense as well.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Huge impact. But in terms of...
Don't worry, we'll talk about the Cowboys and that defense later on. Can't wait.
Oh, of course you want to change the subject.
In the words of Bart
Of course,
Scott.
He wants to change the subject, right?
No.
Okay.
We'll stay on
You
topic.
sure?
We'll stay on topic.
We're going to stay on topic, right?
We're going to stay with the Dolphins
So, but
right
yes,
now.
I will give Tyreek the credit. Speed kills. And not very
He's
often.
the best player on that team, correct?
He is the best player on that team. He is the best player on that team.
We can agree on that, though.
Now, ultimately, they're really getting it from the coach. That coach, his schemes, the
motion, the play calling, it's outstanding.
Unbelievable.
It's outstanding.
Right? We thought Kyle Shanahan was a genius,
Sure.
right? Mike McDaniels might be, the mad scientist,
Comes
right?
from that system, but it seems he's evolved his play calling somewhat to mix in a little bit of pre-snap motion with both the runs and the pass.
But I think he's putting his players in great situations, right?
100%
recognizing their skills and their ability, right? And making sure Tyreek doesn't get doubled.
Yeah.
Right? And so ultimately, you got to give credit to that coaching staff. Mind you, well-staffed in bringing in, what's it called?
The defensive coordinator is Vic Fangio,
doing that.
Interesting stat. I'm glad that you brought up Vic Fangio because an interesting stat I saw while that game was going on. Dolphins are the only team in the NFL, 6 players with at least 1 sack. I thought that was kind of an interesting statistic.
Listen, they're a well-rounded team.
Sure.
Right? And ultimately, they're putting it together.
Yeah.
And when the season starts, right, you have to be able to pivot, right?
Yep.
And you said, right, not to overreact to week 1.
Sure.
But you know what? We're starting to recognize a pattern. A little bit of a trend.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And that the Dolphins are for real.
Here's what I'm going to say. They obviously have a very impressive resume to boot so far. But let's go a little bit through the teams that they played. Chargers, okay? Explosive offense, bottom 4 defense statistically, both against the run, the pass, and in points allowed. Okay, let's go to the Broncos. 0-3. Oh, we'll talk about them more as we go off that segment because that's who they played. The Broncos, 0-3. some people thought they were coming in with a bit of steam this year. They also, like the Chargers, rank bottom 4 in defense as well. Now again, the Broncos did not make the playoffs last year either. And then finally the Patriots. Now, the Patriots have a legitimate defense, but they still didn't make the playoffs last year. That was a competitive game between them and the Dolphins too as well. So I'm just waiting for the Dolphins to go out and beat what I think right now is a legitimate team. And I think they have
the Buffalo
opportunity to
Bills?
prove it.
Would that count?
That would absolutely count. I already said. I prefaced this segment by saying, if they go into Buffalo and they beat Buffalo, and I'm not saying they have to kill them, but if they beat them convincingly, in convincing fashion, the Miami Dolphins are for real. And that's probably the best.
Let me say this, right? The Chargers have a bad defense, right? They do. They got good players, right?
They have good players, not a good defense.
I don't know what that head coach is doing, but ultimately
they survived the game this weekend.
They definitely did.
Yep.
What you have to remember is that those teams are playing the Dolphins.
They are.
The Dolphins are doing this to these teams, putting them at the bottom of the league because they're just.
And all you can do is beat who they put in front of you at the end of the day, right?
Listen, absolutely. Yeah. But nobody wants to play the Dolphins right now. And listen,
they're
football players, they're tough guys, and 99% of the time they're going to tell you there's no fear in their heart. But that speed of Tyreek Hill causes guys to hesitate for a moment.
You're talking about Tyreek Hill, and again, I brought him up, but also, too, this rookie, De'Von Achane. It's got to be the last name, by the way, why he plays so well. That guy...
He had one good game.
He did. I'm not going to over.
Let's respect Raheem Mostert. Okay,
Mostert had a heck of a game.
I'm just saying, let's respect him too. But
Achane, 200 yards, 2 TDs. Was it 2 TDs? I mean, you can't keep track of all the touchdowns.
I think Mostert had 4, but
Mostert did have 4. Mostert did have 4.
But you know what? Again, I go back to the head coach. Right?
Yeah.
He is putting them in positions to succeed. Absolutely. It's not all passing, right? It's also running.
Sure.
Defense is showing
great
overall.
Mix. A great mix.
They're doing a good thing.
I can't wait to watch them play Buffalo this weekend because I think both teams right now, Buffalo had that rough week 1 start, but they seem to have
they're getting it together,
rounding into form. And again, I keep bringing him up. James Cook, top 5 in rushing yards right now. I mean, the guy is performing, and what that shows you is maybe Buffalo has figured out a little bit more of a balance to the offense. Let's not have.
They had to have pivoted from that Jets game, right? And I think they're recognizing that they need to run the ball more.
Sure,
Josh
put it all on Josh Allen.
He's got to run less. He's got to make better decisions.
100%,
right? So
which he has in the 2 subsequent games since.
Now he's got to do it again.
Keep
doing
it. This is a big game for both teams,
right? Because you're putting all the heat on the Dolphins,
right?
Because you called them frauds.
I didn't call them frauds.
Listen, we can use whatever word you want, right?
I said a wait and see. A wait and see.
Okay, we'll wait and see next week.
It's the exciting topic right now.
But ultimately, I think the Bills are the ones that have something to prove, right? What are the Bills going to do against a good defense? Right, a high-powered offense. Is Josh going to make good decisions? Is he going to turn over the ball?
Hold on here, though. No, we're going to run it back right here. A good defense. You're talking about the Dolphins, right? Now, I did bring up that stat about the statistics, but if we're looking at them overall, now some of this could be the fact that their offense is so high level and they're on the field so often and scoring so quickly. The defense is on more, but bottom 12 in the league, I believe, against the pass, against the run, and then bottom 8 against the pass. So it's not an elite defense. Now, it could be situationally great.
I said good. Good, right? They're missing Jalen Ramsey, right? They're still getting it together.
Sure.
And listen, you brought up the point that I would have made. When your offense is scoring at that level of a clip,
your defense is naturally going to give up some.
They're going to get tired.
Numbers.
It's an amount of snaps that the defense is playing, right? Fair. And ultimately, they're going to tie in. They're going to bring in other players. It's Miami. It's hot. So I'm not giving them any excuses.
Sure.
But ultimately, that defense. Listen, if they were a top 5 defense, they would be blowing teams out.
Sure.
60 to.
It's almost impossible when you score that quickly and your defense keeps going. So I'm with you. So let's wait and see in terms of that. But I want to give you an analogy really quick, if I could, before we move on to the next game, about looking at the way I would attack the Dolphins. Okay?
Interesting.
You're a football guy.
Yeah.
I'm a wrestler.
Okay.
All right? So I'm going to put this in the wrestling platform for a second. If I'm going to go and wrestle somebody that I know physically is just faster than me, I don't want to give them space. Now, I don't know how it works exactly in football, but I feel like I would attack football very similar to this.
Okay.
I want to close the gap, and I want to get my hands on that person as soon as possible so I can slow him down and we're the same speed. The way I look at the Dolphins, and if you want to defend them, stop. You're already afraid of getting beat deep because of their speed, right? Get up on there, right? Press with some of your corners. Now, I get it. The risk versus the reward. But delay the timing of some of these routes because the big key to their offense right now is Tua's ability to get the ball out so quickly. Yep. They're also trying to protect him. Does Buffalo come in and say, we're going to go heavy press? We'll probably still play too deep back, okay, as well, because we have to protect against deep plays. Sure. But we got to try to delay some of the timing of this offense and see if we can get to to Tua, which, again, Buffalo right now, number 2 ranked defense overall.
So I like that, and I agree. The only thing I would say from a defensive scheme standpoint that I would do a little differently is I would put a man on Tyreek Hill, right? Wherever he goes, the man goes.
Bracket him with a safety over top,
and right. So
and then let the other guys
you're playing
beat you.
Exactly. You're playing man on Tyreek.
Sure.
You can play zone everywhere else, but you're going to shade a safety over to him. So in essence, you're playing double coverage at all times.
Sure.
You incorporate the press.
Yeah.
You know when he's not in motion.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't do it all the time, but give him a steady guide.
Exactly. Take away the underneath route and let him try to throw it over the top where you're going to have safety help.
Sure.
But ultimately, everyone else, I'm going to play back. Right. Okay. I would force the Dolphins to run the ball. Right? Now, they've shown that they can do it.
Sure.
But at the end of the day...
over a sustained 4 quarters against a defense that, can at least up front maybe handle or hold their own with that.
Exactly.
And they go and run the ball.
Let my D-line and my linebackers try to, take down the
Buffalo second overall in sacks too right now. So I think if you want to go and beat Miami, you want to be able to go and get pressure on their quarterback.
But if they're running the ball, you don't have to worry about that, right? So that's I would play with 5 DBs, nickel package. Have 2 linebackers and my 4 defensive linemen. Yeah. So play 5 on 6 to take care of the rush. Have 2 deep, double Tyreek, and that would be my game plan. Against them. Because ultimately the Patriots did something similar, but the motion made it difficult to double Tyreek. I agree. And they only put up 20-ish points in that game, maybe 24 points.
It's a tall task. Whoever's going to go and shut them down defensively, it is. It's a tall order, a lot to stop.
And then conversely, you got to score on defense, and you have to shorten the game. Yes. Right? Sorry, you have to score on offense, and you have to shorten the game.
Buffalo seems to be doing right now. That's why I'm really intrigued by this matchup.
But will Josh make good decisions?
That's a great point. Listen, he's at home, so again, I think the benefit of being at home. It is pressure to go and perform.
There's no snow.
But there is no snow. But Miami's got to travel very far too as well. It's across the country, in terms of south to north. But it is still warm out right now.
Yeah.
I think the line on that right now is Buffalo -2, 2.5. I'm not a gambling guy.
I wonder who you're taking. But
well, we'll get to that on our pick segment. Okay. Don't worry, I'll relish that. And I'm sure some of you fans are wondering, where is that beautiful multicolored hat? Don't worry, folks. It's not here yet, but it'll be coming. It'll be making an appearance.
Lord have mercy.
All right? But we've talked a lot about the Dolphins. Let's quickly kind of segue into the team they played, who's quickly kind of turning into a train wreck right now. The Denver Broncos. What are your thoughts?
First of all, Sean Payton, you got to shut up. Right? You got to shut up.
Talking all that
because if I'm not mistaken,
about my man on the Jets,
Nathaniel Hackett,
right? Yeah.
Worst
it was a
coaching
mess last
job
year.
ever.
This looks terrible.
He didn't give up 70 points.
He didn't.
Ever.
He didn't.
Right? So
he didn't. I don't care how much better Russ looks. 100%. The team looks bad.
At the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, football, coaching, it's a fraternity.
Sure.
And there's a certain level of respect that has to be conducted amongst all, right? Current and former. Even if you're an analyst.
Don't call out another coach because you're putting bulletin board material on your own head. And you got to play the Jets at some point this year, too.
Listen, Sean Payton wanted to smoke, and he can't back it up. And guess what? Russ isn't the worst thing.
No, Russ is playing well right now.
At least last week.
Russ is actually playing well.
299 yards, 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Yes, is he
6
still
touchdowns
missing?
right now, only 2 interceptions. Russ is honestly Russ is not the problem. Now, he's not necessarily the solution either.
Yes.
He's not making some great plays when it comes to the second half of games.
He's missing some open receivers and some opportunities to keep the ball going.
But you give up 70 points in a game. I cannot blame the quarterback. No quarterback is going to go
Sean
able to
Payton,
win that
you
game.
hired, Van Joseph. You had a chance to pick up Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
Right? So that seems like
I
malpractice
heard a quick
move.
story that he tried to go after Vic, but apparently Vic had because he had just been let go from the Broncos recently, he said, I want no part of it. So he's kind of just stuck with whatever
sour
else.
feelings there with the organization because ultimately it was still the same regime in terms of the GM, management staff, and 100%. So there was some bad blood there.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I don't think Vic, wanted that opportunity.
Yeah.
But then, if you also remember, initially, I think he may have been on board, but Sean Payton took a while to figure out what he wanted to do and take the Denver Broncos job.
Sure. And he'd been out for a couple of years, so it's not like he could just go and bring in his guys.
Exactly. And then Chubb, the linebacker.
Bradley Chubb.
Right, played for Vic Fangio.
Yep.
So there were some relationships there. It is Florida, no state taxes.
Yeah.
So ultimately, there was a lot of reason.
We could all deal with no state taxes now.
Amen. But so there was a lot of reason for him to go, and ultimately Sean was showing some indecision. So I think all of that also led to Vic making that decision. But the Denver Broncos are a mess. Offensively, defensively, coaching. They're imploding from within.
Yeah.
Now, you can blame some of that on Russ. You can blame that on Sean Payton.
It's a combo.
It really
is 100% a combination.
But so far, Sean Payton's approach in leadership of this team and the tough love isn't working.
Yeah. No,
it
it's
isn't
not.
working.
It's not.
So either the players don't believe in Russ and it's causing the defense to not have the heart,
which is
to be
definitely a
as
legitimate question, sure.
Right? But
this defense was good the last 2 seasons.
It was. So therefore, is it that Sean Payton words are falling on deaf ears? Is it Van Joseph words falling on deaf ears? There is something wrong in that organization.
Sure.
And it's either management,
lack
coaching,
of leadership. Obviously, there's a complete just absence of leadership there.
Yeah.
Somebody is not inspiring that team. And I'm looking at them right now. And if Sean Payton was not in his first year right now, I think he would be on the hot seat. I think because they made an investment to go and bring him in out of retirement, he is safe for at least this year. And I don't think Russ finishes the season as a starter, though. Oof. And I'm not even trying to blame it on him. I just don't see it working.
At the end of the day, they might be in the sweepstakes for Caleb Williams, right? Drake May, and all these guys.
Michael Penix.
Michael Penix, maybe your guy, topic. Right?
Yeah.
But so no, he's gonna have the time. Listen, at the end of the day, I don't. His approach for this particular season may have been wrong and is not working.
Sure.
But when that happens, sometimes you have to overhaul the team. I don't think that team is a full reflection of Sean Payton, and the team might recognize that he might not believe in Russ.
Don't they have one of the best young cornerbacks in the game too?
Patrick Surtain.
Yes.
Right, Patrick Surtain. Listen,
the second.
Right, the second. Technically the second. Listen, they have good players, they have good talent, but I think that team is not a full reflection of Sean Payton. It's not going to take 1 year to fix.
Yeah.
They're obviously not responding to Van Joseph.
Can get with a full offseason, being able to pull in his pieces, make moves.
So listen, am I blaming Sean Payton overall? Not 100%, because I think that whatever friction between him and Russ is infecting the rest of the team.
Sure.
And there's going to have to be a complete overhaul to fix that team. But there is something wrong. And it's ugly right now because they're giving up 7.9 yards per play. Oof. The best offense.
That's got to be worse in the league.
The best offense in NFL history was moving the ball at like 7.1, 7.2 yards per play, and Denver's giving up 7.9.
So they're essentially giving up a record yardage per play.
Exactly. So something's got to change.
Yeah.
Listen, Van Joseph might need to be fired. I'm not calling for his job, but you might just need a different voice.
Well,
something
give up 70 points. I don't think anybody's safe. So I mean, guys are on the chopping block. I have to imagine that by the end of this season, Denver might have one of the largest roster turnovers and then staff turnovers in the league. There's obviously a lot that needs to be cleaned up and get fixed.
100%.
Let's go to a game that's music to both you and my ears. All right. Ooh. And I don't think anybody called this one.
Who the boys? Right?
Who them boys?
Who the boys?
Yeah. Cowboys, coming into the week, they were the best defense in the league, yardage-wise, points, everything. Well, it's not that way anymore. Now they're still in the top 5, one game. And again, I will say this to you, Dallas, because this is one of the first times I actually looked at the team and I was like, wow, they actually look very dangerous. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I'm never going to judge a team by one game, no matter how bad it is, with the exception
Nobody
of
should
what
be
I
judged
just
by
saw
their
with
worst
Denver.
day or their best
Exactly. But who saw that coming?
Listen, I'll say this, right?
Sure.
The Cardinals are playing inspired football right now.
They are
right?
tougher than anybody thought they were going to be playing.
100%. And
they could be 3-0 right now.
They could be.
They were in every game.
I was a little questionable on that head coach, new head coach, defensive coach. Kyler Murray's hurt. Yep. So there was a lot of questions going in there.
Sure.
I talked about this with the Giants second half when they played them. They demonstrate a lot of heart.
Sure.
That team is playing with heart and toughness.
Yeah.
Right? And so conversely to the Denver Broncos, right? They believe in that coaching staff, right? There is some unity there, right?
Sure.
Their quarterback Dobbs, right, coming off the street, right, has inspired that team. He's a true leader. So
he's playing well.
Exactly.
He's playing well.
We can't call them the worst team in the league.
No.
Now,
I don't even think it's close.
Now, Dallas, there's a lot missing there, right? Listen, respect to Trayvon Diggs, terrible injury.
Obviously a big loss.
Right?
But
big
Trayvon
loss,
Diggs don't play in the box.
But here's the thing. But scheme has to change, right? Because when you have two great cornerbacks, right, then you could stack the box.
So you're trying to maybe
them to throw the ball. Right?
I get what you're saying. Yep.
So I definitely think that defense lost a lot of confidence. They're going to have to reinvent themselves.
Okay.
Right. And then they were running the ball at Micah Parsons. Right. And they were moving.
That was a smart move by them.
Right. But
keep him off the pass rush.
And people have tried that, but they were moving that defensive line. They were doing things the Giants or the Jets had not done.
Rushed for 200 yards on Dallas. I mean, they put it on.
They put
impressive.
It on. And
they went and played big boy ball, and Dallas just didn't have an answer.
Right, but here's the thing. That's on the defensive side. Where was the offense? Where was Dak Prescott stepping up to say, hey, D, you know what? You didn't have it today, right? We're going to make up for it.
Sure.
And one of the biggest things I learned about that offense, they're missing Zeke Elliott, right? Because in that red zone, when they need 2-3 yards to score a touchdown, Tony Pollard is just not that guy.
He's not.
Just not that guy, right? And so everyone said Zeke was old.
I also worry about him carrying the load over the course of 16 games. Like, we haven't seen him be the guy for 16 games.
That's
coming
fair.
off a major injury, too, as well.
But you know what? In terms of definitely, he's got speed. He's got, I'll call it effort, not necessarily power.
Sure. Oh, he's a big play. He's a big play type of player.
100%. But you know what? Like, this is where Zeke could have came in. You could have got him for nothing. Sure. But in the red zone, short yardage, that was the opportunity. You could have used Zeke to really move the chains, get those touchdowns.
Yeah.
And
because they got in the red zone a bunch of times, they just couldn't finish.
They're moving the ball. They're getting yards. But guess 100%. What? As soon as they get in the red zone, they can't close the deal.
Yeah.
Right? Dak threw an interception. And they were basically manning up CeeDee Lamb.
Sure.
Right? He was going against a
doesn't have a touchdown yet this season. That's true. Which is actually very surprising. But you talked about Dak. And it's interesting you brought him up because I saw a comment after the game, a quote from Dak, which I found very interesting. And if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd be a little worried about this comment. It says, well, this is kind of due to the media, right? You, the media, you always build us up, and then whenever we come crashing down, you got what you want. Are you happy?
Yeah.
That threw me off. And again, was that you want to throw shade at the media, or is that shade at his owner, who we all know, Jerry Jones, if you're a football fan, he's very verbose, very outspoken. He'll always talk very proudly of his team. After week 2, the Cowboys are on top of the world. He's saying we should take a bow, which I'll leave my commentary on that to the side. I think it's ridiculous after 2 weeks. But it worries me about Dak from the mentality of, you know who your owner is. This is who he is. He's not going to change. So are you feeling like the pressure of where you're at? What are your thoughts on that comment?
Listen, Jerry Jones is an old dog. He's not changing.
He ain't changing.
Right? And he's making too much money to shut up.
And he pays you a lot of money to go win big games.
Exactly. So, Dak, put your big boy pants on. All right? Listen, at the end of the day, Dak Prescott's feelings are hurt.
That comment alarmed me. It just did.
From a leadership standpoint, problem. But guess what? Joe Burrow got paid, right? Jalen Hurts got paid in your own division. Patrick Mahomes just got some more money.
And those are guys that have either been to a Super Bowl or won a Super Bowl.
And so all of a sudden now, Dak is playing on his
final year of his deal.
Before where there's no more guaranteed money. So is he upset at the organization, right? That they didn't pay him, they didn't give him the money, and at the end of the day, can Dak handle the pressure?
That
right?
quote
Does
makes
it
me
need to be in
think
Minnesota where the media is smaller, that there's less expectations? But at the end of the day, if you're playing for the Cowboys, right, and you want to get paid, then you got to show up, right? And when the defense can't necessarily create turnovers, create short fields, at the end of the day, their red zone problems has existed in all of their games.
Sure.
But the defense was so great, it overshadowed it, right? Now, what will Dak Prescott do? Right?
Their defense is somewhat compromised. Like, it's not, especially when you have the Eagles in your division who, what can that team do? Well, they can run the ball.
And listen, just on Monday night, right? The Eagles have been winning. They've been winning ugly.
Yep,
right?
Hasn't been pretty.
New offensive scheme, new
like
offensive coordinator, right? Jalen Hurts hasn't been the best quarterback, but you know what? They've been winning. They've been running the ball more. Swift ultimately is top 5 right now in rushing yards. They stole him for a 4th-round pick. So it's very, very interesting what the Eagles are doing because they're not perfect. They're not at their best. But guess what? They're winning.
They're winning.
That offensive line.
That defensive line is very good.
Both
sides on the line, yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of good things going on right now in Philadelphia. And even though Jalen isn't, right, playing his best, right? Guess what? They're all behind him. Even the little tizzy with A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Guess what he did? Right? Threw him the ball, 15 targets, 100
Brown
plus
had a
yards.
nice game. That was
right?
that
he
was
took
huge.
care of his boys.
Sure.
Right? Again, further building trust and belief with them. That's not happening in Dallas.
So listen, I'll go quickly with this, and I'm going to segue to the final topic of this segment. But with Dak, listen, man, I got nothing against you personally. All reports are you're a very nice guy. But in my opinion, you're somewhat overpaid and you're somewhat overhyped relative to the resume you got right now. Put up or shut up, my man. That's your owner. He ain't going to change. It's time for you to go and win a Super Bowl. Stop crying about the media and what they built up. You are the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, my man. You're the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. That comes with some pressure. So step up, own it, and live up to that contract. But you brought up the Swift thing. So let's do a quick little segue, right?
Okay.
Chiefs Bears, first of all, total domination, but everyone's worried.
Listen,
Everyone's
there was
worried.
a big rumor out there.
Week, right? 0-1. But what do the Chiefs do now? 3 weeks later, shake it off, shake it off. Taylor Swift, the good luck charm.
Stop singing.
I'm not a singer, for the record. Yeah. But
hey, there will be some bad blood. Listen, anyway.
Run me for the singing. That might have been cornier.
Listen, look, the Chiefs' defense look amazing.
11.9 points per game, man. They are for real.
Listen,
Chris Jones back in the house,
Jones.
man.
Listen, you got to give Taylor Swift some credit, man.
She's a good luck charm. She's a good luck charm.
Hey, Kelsey's got his touchdown.
Swag back. Yep.
Hey, and she was with Kelsey's mama. That's
a
big deal.
She was with Mama Bear up in the box. I believe I saw.
Deal.
Yeah, like that. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on YouTube or not yet. We all know what she said. But the Chiefs are a problem. Their offense is starting to round into form. Yeah. The one thing I could say about that, the final point before we go to break is, man, the Bears.
Listen, terrible coaching job, terrible money spent in the offseason. Justin Fields.
Doesn't seem to be taking that progression.
Listen, get your life together, man. Yeah. Right? Like, listen, right now you're ruining your money, you're ruining your career.
Calling out your coaching staff, and then you go out and put a performance like that.
Everything is falling apart in that organization. They're looking like the Broncos for fighting for who's a worse organization and who's the worst team. Right? Yeah. So there's a ton of problems there. They got to get it together.
And Bears gave up all these picks thinking they had the quarterback in place. I'm not so sure they have the quarterback in place right now, and it's nothing personal to him. He had a heck of a year last year, but here's the thing. Numbers and stats are one thing. I do like numbers and stats. I think they're relevant. But you got to win games. This man hasn't won in his last, 13, 14 games, something like that?
Since last October, 2022.
Yeah. So it might even be even more games than that. But I mean, listen, that wraps up our first segment, guys. We're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? We're back for segment 2. This is Run It Back. Now, before we get started on the segment, all right, I'm going to kick it over to my co-host real quick, let you know what we're trying to get out of our fans and followers. We can't make this happen without you guys.
We want to really thank you guys. You guys have been showing us so much love. Our Instagram page has only been up for a week. We already have 100 followers. So listen, we appreciate you guys. Like, you guys make this happen. In the beginning, we told you that this was for you guys. This is the talk shop, and so we appreciate all the love. Listen, on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, right? We appreciate the comments and the feedback. So
love the commentary.
Love it. So continue to do that. And then on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Listen, if you like the show, you love the show, rate us a 5-star, right? Ultimately, it's going to bring you guys more feedback. You know the algorithm, AI, that's what it's all about. So continue to show the love, give us the comments, and we're going to keep running back to you.
Hey, help us grow too as well, right here, so that I don't have to before every single episode. I've lost count of the numbers of what episode number it is. It's just right there on the bottom. But no, listen, seriously, we can't do this without you guys, and we're really trying to make this work. Please send us the love, like, comment, subscribe on all our platforms. We could not appreciate it enough. Having said that, now let's get into some of our surprise stories, headlines, things that happened in the week. I'm going to start in the Avenue of College. Now,
no more Taylor Swift, right?
No more Taylor Swift. I'm sure that we're going to be told to just be gone from that completely. Yeah. But I mean, if anybody has some, mean comments, we can always just, shake it off.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, gosh. Call back? No? All right. So, we've been talking a lot about, I don't even know if I could say this anymore, because he said he's about to trademark 4 different things, and I think Prime Time is one of them, and Coach Prime. But my man, Neon Dion, all right, Sanders, him in Colorado, they took on Oregon this weekend. They were 28-point dogs. I watched that game until about, I want to say, midway through the third quarter. Mm-hmm. They got whooped, and he owned it. I'm going to give him that too as well. Like in the press conference, he said that was a good old-fashioned butt whooping.
Yep.
But you had an interesting take on this. We were talking about pre-production. I want you to talk about the video that you showed us kind of with Keyshawn.
Yeah, so, Keyshawn on Undisputed, talked about, a couple of coaching sources that he had. And, what I found interesting, or as a big surprise, was that other coaches from other teams were giving Oregon information on Colorado to ensure that they would win.
Which, if that's true, I think is kind of ridiculous.
It's a little crazy, right? Yeah. Because ultimately, Colorado was 1-11 last season.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody expected Colorado to win that game.
Oh, listen, with Travis Hunter being out, like we all knew they weren't going to win. Definitely expected a better showing.
Been playing good, but he struggled.
Yes, and listen, Dion knows that he's missing the big guys up front, offense line, defensive line.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, right, Oregon won, so much respect to them.
They did.
But it looks like they were trying to become famous, or they were trying to become clickbait, because they were maybe a little jealous of all the attention from Primetime. But listen, you know what? The one thing about Colorado and Primetime, they're real classy. Dion said, listen, get me now.
Sure.
Because this is the worst we're ever going to be.
He did say that.
Right?
Yeah, I love that.
And guess what? He keeps receipts.
Oh, he keeps receipts. We already know that.
So I'm interested to see, right, what happens as Colorado moves on, another year in the transfer portal. The team starts to shape and become a little bit of what Dion wants. He's got the Hogs up front, right? Then you can start to compete with the big boys, right? So we'll see what the other Power 5 teams do when Dion has his dogs with him.
Well, listen, we're obviously both avid sports consumers, like even when I come in, I'm watching a bunch of different podcasts. I still watch some sports shows that are on the major networks. One of my favorite guys, so I don't want to take credit for this idea that I'm about to throw out there, but it's a guy by the name of Nick Wright. He's on First Things First, that afternoon show on FS1. He also has a podcast, I believe it's What's Right with Nick Wright. Big time guy. Man, I could shout him out if we ever got him to go to the show. It'd help us tremendously. But
drop a comment, Nick.
Please drop a comment, Nick. I follow you quite a bit. But he said something, and I think it was so true, and he said it on The Volume, Colin Cowherd's podcast. That's another guy I want to shout out to as well. I'm an avid consumer of The Volume. I think those guys are great. When we get into basketball, too, there's a guy on there who I honestly think has the best basketball podcast out there. His name's Jason Timpf. Okay, it's called Hoops Tonight. So, again, shout out to all you guys. I'm giving you all the credit. But going back to Nick Wright. So, Nick Wright goes, I find it so amusing. He was saying this to Colin Cowherd. They were talking about the whole weekend in a reflection. He's like, I find it so amusing that the Oregon coach and the coaching staff is saying that Deion and Colorado is all about the clicks when they are literally like the spokesperson team for like Nike and wearing a different jersey
about
every year.
150 different combinations.
Yeah, like I'm just saying, settle down on the whole Deion and that. Deion is being Deion. Deion is being true to his person, his character. So this is how Deion's always been. He's got a flair. He likes to talk, but I mean,
remember
he backs it up.
He does back it up, but here's the thing: he doesn't talk trash,
sure,
right? And he's emphasized that, like, hey, listen, if you want to banter, right? If you want to say, hey, you're number one and I'm number one, let's see who's best. He's about that, but he doesn't beat down his opponent. He doesn't talk down to his opponent, right? So I think.
But if you talk about him, he's going to give it back to you.
Hey,
and he's going to remember.
Right, he
the
takes
receipts.
it personal.
Keep
Definitely.
the receipts.
So, and at the end of the day, right, it comes back to recruiting. All this is really about is recruiting. And guess what?
Oregon
Deion
is
doing
15 years, 20 years ahead of where Colorado is right now.
100%. But guess what? Deion is moving faster than anyone could have ever imagined, 100%. Right? And people want to be a part of Colorado and what they're doing.
Yep.
So guess what? Those other coaches in the Power 5, they're nervous. They're scared. Because guess what? Right? You can be big time. You're going to be on national television if you go to Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And guess what? The uniforms are going to come. So Oregon and these other teams, what are you going to do to separate yourself? Right? Because what Deion is doing and how he coaches.
I like that.
If you watch Deion carefully, even when his players make a mistake, he uses that immediately as a coaching opportunity to get them better. Yeah. Right? So I think...
Whereas some coaches will literally just blast them and then send them off somewhere. And
exactly.
There.
How are you developing me? How are you making me better? Right.
I coach high school football, so I see it. I see those kind of things all the time. I'm coaching for a number of years, so I think the point you just made is fantastic. I'm fully bought in on 100% on Deion, everything that he's doing. I love it. I really do love it. I just don't like that these guys are trying to make it seem like he's not genuine or something like that, or he's looking because I think it's anything but that. I think everything you see with Deion, like what you see, is
100% authentic. And guess what? Those recruits, I think, recognize that. Now, listen, Oregon, right? Yep, you beat them down. Do something with it, right? You got everybody's attention now, right? So listen, don't lose next week. Right, you better make a run at the playoffs because if you're gonna talk big, right, if you're gonna clap back, then guess what? You better not fall short and become a disappointment.
And listen, I will say this too about Oregon. My man Bo Nix, formerly of the Auburn Tigers, then went and transferred. Listen, he's legit. He looks legit in that offense.
He looks now like he's becoming a true NFL quarterback.
He does, but I will say this with like the Oregon, very similar to Ohio State. It's kind of like I gotta see it to believe it. I have yet to see an Oregon quarterback make it in the league, like translate to that next level. Maybe he's different.
Justin Herbert?
Is he Oregon?
Oregon?
Oh man, major faux pas on my part. I apologize, guys. So Herbert's awesome.
I got him.
But so Herbert's the first though. So Herbert is the first. Why did I think he played somewhere else?
I guess Mariota didn't make it, but he got drafted high.
From he's been okay. Yes. But overall, the track record on both Oregon quarterbacks and Ohio State quarterbacks is not good in the NFL. They have not succeeded. Maybe C.J. Stroud, a little promise right now showing. Maybe he could be the change.
Listen, I know we're jumping ahead, but you just named my stud of the week.
Oh, wow. I took away your thunder a little bit there. Well, you can say it again and I'm just gonna drop all the numbers.
C.J. Stroud, right? Top 5 quarterback right now in yards, right? Listen, I'm overly impressed.
I think 0 interceptions.
Right?
I might have read by him. I could be mistaken.
I'm not sure, but I think he's 4th overall in yards.
Yeah.
And what's impressive about that is the fact that so many Ohio State quarterbacks have failed.
5th overall in yards. 5th overall in yards. Yeah, you were good. You're good. Hey, listen, we do the meeting beforehand. I tracked some stats. You were good, man.
Listen, you just wanted to be right about something. That's all. But at the end of the day, C.J. Stroud and could be breaking the Ohio State quarterback curse.
Yep.
Right? Listen. I thought Justin Fields might, do something with that and become maybe like the next Jalen Hurts. He's a disappointment. Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul, he's a disappointment. So at the end of the day, for 3 weeks in and to be top 5 in yardage, you won your first game, beat the Jags, projected division winner.
Sure. Highly
impressive. And again, he was missing offensive linemen. He was missing defensive linemen. So a lot of respect
they were not at 100%.
to C.J. Stroud. I know I jumped ahead there, but my stud of the week.
That's okay, man. Listen, I didn't get to watch all the college games, but I definitely watched a few. The other game that really stood out to me, thought it was great. I don't know if you caught it, but FSU Clemson. Not going to spend a ton of time on the game, but the one thing was Clemson is about to go up 2 scores, 2 possessions basically, essentially ice the game. And then that turnover that FSU picks up and changed the whole course of the game. The one thing I saw in that FSU game is, man, that receiver, Johnny Wilson, that kid's going to be, that kid might be a top 10 draft pick. He is that good. Now, the way the league is going, I'm not quite sure. I guess it'll depend
definitely
on,
first rounder.
but he is easily a first rounder. I would say top 15,
definitely.
top 20.
Listen, what I noticed about that game, Clemson falling apart, right? They missed the field goal to win in regulation, right?
And a big ACC rivalry, so I mean, they played FSU tough. FSU's for real, though. They could be competing for a national title.
They should have lost, though, because for 2 reasons. One, missed the field goal in regulation, chip shot.
Yeah.
Then in overtime, 3rd and 1, instead of running the ball, they throw a quick screen, lose 3 yards, and then turnovers on down.
Definitely
so
some
they're making
suspect play calling.
They just lost to Duke, right? So there's a lot of friction going on there.
Dabo can't be happy.
Yeah, listen, a little lack of leadership, I think. From a player standpoint, sometimes in a locker room, in a team, you need 1 or 2 guys, player coaches, to really hold everyone accountable. I think that's what's missing in Clemson right now. I'm not going to blame the coaches. I don't think the coaches are the problem. I don't think they don't have any players as true leaders, and that's Clemson's issue right now.
Well, I wonder how much of affecting them is like some of this just NIL and the transfer portal. Were they kind of maybe a little late to the party, similar to Bama, where all of a sudden it's just kind of wild west of college football right now? You're not really knowing who's going to go where.
But they lost some stability, right? The one thing about Clemson
Seems
is
like
you had
since
Dabo.
Since Trevor Lawrence, they haven't quite regained that
mojo. Right? But you had Dabo, and then you had Brent Venable, right, as your defensive coordinator. And he could have had a head coaching job a long time ago, but he stayed. But now he's at Oklahoma, and so
they're playing pretty well right now.
Last year they were terrible. Last year they were absolutely terrible.
Give the guy a year to get his system in place, his recruits.
So think about that. All of a sudden now, right, Oklahoma's looking good. Clemson is looking suspect, right? Divided leadership. Some of that coaching staff went over with Brent Venable. So I think they lost some of their talent on the coaching side. And that's leading to some of Clemson's problems. But time will tell.
Well, I have a couple of friends too who are very quick, the second a team struggles, jump off, fire the coach and whatnot. Especially when it's a new coach. This is me personally, just having the experience that I have coaching for so long. You've got to give. And again, there's always exceptions to this rule, but I think in most situations, you got to give a coach, college, the NFL, you got to give him a minimum 2 to 3 years to really see what his system and what is going to go on is going to be placed. Because a lot of times these guys come in, it's off of a random firing. It was at said point in the season. They didn't get that full time to ingratiate themselves, get the system, get all their guys through their recruiting, talent evaluation, personnel, whatnot, depending on the level.
Listen, I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying? Give them the time. They need time to develop.
Coaches deserve 3 years, but
it's so
in
rare.
Year 2,
you have to see something.
You have to see something. You have to see development. Look at the Bears, right?
Yeah,
right
good.
now,
like I said,
everyone is blaming Justin Fields, but that entire coaching staff, I'm questioning now. Can they properly lead an NFL team? So I agree with you overall, but when you see those red flags, as an organization, right, you have to listen to, not necessarily listen to
I'm
your
also
fan
saying
base.
it from the coach's perspective. A lot of these guys that run these teams are high-level businessmen that make a lot of money, and a lot of them are not very patient, and they're very narcissistic. So they want to appease their egos and get what they want quickly.
Fair, but I think when you make a mistake, you have to move off of it quickly.
I agree with you.
Right, because if
you can't just keep trying
if you lose
to
your fan base,
what's
you
happening
lose
to
your
the Jets
team.
right now. They keep doubling down. And again, I do not mean this to pile on Zach Wilson. I know he's getting piled on enough as it is.
He doesn't belong in New York.
He doesn't belong as a starting quarterback in the NFL, unfortunately. And the Jets get you had to know right away. You moved off of him. You moved off of him last season. You realized that he was not the guy. Okay? So for this thing to happen with Aaron Rodgers, one, I'm surprised that Wilson was still on the team. I guess they figured the mentorship, maybe people love a ramification project. You know, like I get to rebuild them.
They couldn't afford a quality backup. That's a part of it. At the end of the day, they spent money on Aaron. They spent money on the defense. They didn't have enough money to pay Gardner Minshew $6 to $8 million. That's who they could use right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And ultimately, maybe if Anthony
look at him going out, pulling
hurt,
up an upset against the Ravens this weekend too, as well.
Right. Again, a professional quarterback that's going to do his job.
Can go start a couple games for you.
That's what the Jets
keep you above
need
water
right now, and that's just not Zach. But guess what? Carson Wentz is not the answer, right? He's a locker room killer.
He'd be better than Wilson, but yeah.
Yeah, but then do you still lose the locker room because, he's not the greatest leader, right, of men? So that's something to take into account as well. But listen, Jets, good luck, man. I don't even know what to tell you.
It's tough, especially with the
defense can't make a mistake.
No, they can't.
And listen, offensive coordinator, run the ball.
Yeah.
Run the ball, shorten the game.
You got a stud in the backfield, too. I mean, I like me some Breece Hall. I do.
Listen, Dalvin's no scrub.
And throw the ball to Garrett Wilson, too, man. Did you see there was a little bit of an exchange?
He's getting frustrated. Because
and
Zach is missing him while he's wide open. And you can't do that. And he's late.
And Zach, at this point, I mean, you're not the greatest, surveyor of the field in general. I don't care if he's covered. Like, find a way, give him a guy a chance to go and make a play. You got that's Zach Wilson's best chance right now. Just throwing the ball to that guy, but then also to your point, running the ball, Jets. You need to have better game plans. My question to you now, or actually more this game, this is the one that definitely caught my eye. Mm-hmm. It's no secret to you, I'm not the biggest Ohio State fan. I'm not a Big Ten fan in general in football, but I do like Michigan. So one team in the Big Ten I do like.
Okay.
So needless to say, I'm not a big Ohio State fan. Notre Dame. Don't lose a game with 10 men on the field, man. Like, it's just good. Like, it's one thing if you lose that game. It's another to have not the proper amount of men on the field. And it's just, I don't want to disrespect the coach. I don't even know who the coach is at Notre Dame right now. I don't know who replaced Brian Kelly, who's now over at LSU. But I mean, it's
His name is slipping me.
These errors sometimes. I get it. You're in the heat of the moment. But like that level, prime time, you are the show of college football, in your block. 10 men on the field. Like, losing a game with 10 men on the field, to me, it's almost inexcusable.
So, all I can think about, honestly, is two things, and they come from Bill Belichick, right? More games are lost than won, right?
It's so true. Yeah.
So, Bill's whole thing is, just don't lose the game. If we don't lose the game, we'll give them every opportunity to lose the game.
We'll play the field position. We'll do all those other things, but we're not going to make mistakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then second is preparation.
Self-inflicted wounds, some might
eliminate them.
Yeah.
But with the proper preparation, that ends up not being the case.
Yeah.
And ultimately, in the biggest moments, right, we saw the deficiencies with Notre Dame, where it was a host of people that failed. The coaches failed. The defensive linemen failed. That didn't realize that their colleague, their teammate was there. The linebackers, the safety. This is goal line defense. Everything is in front of you, and they missed it twice. The last play and the second to last play. Right, there was only 10 men on the field. So again,
you're a Notre Dame fan. You got to be just like
stick to your stomach.
Yeah,
right. You did everything you were supposed to, and you still lost. And you lost because of preparation and self-infliction. That's the worst way to lose.
Wounds will kill you, man. It's tough. Again, I feel
it's something
bad.
they'll learn from.
I feel bad for the kids. I generally feel bad for the kids on the team. Coaching staff, one way or the other, whether it's lack of preparation, something you got to be more in tune with things.
But you know what? Listen, the pressure causes people palms to get sweaty, right? All of a sudden, you're not thinking.
Pressure either creates diamonds or burst pipes, right?
Pipes.
It's either one good thing or one bad thing.
Yeah.
So it's everybody has a different reaction to the pressure. Now, coming into this season, college football. I'm definitely getting more into it now since we've started the podcast. I got to start watching it again. There was a time when I started coaching football. I was like, I can't watch college football on a Saturday. I just spent Friday and Saturday coaching it. I need a break because I got to go watch my NFL on Sundays.
Yep.
But I'm back now. I want to pay attention, and college football is getting big now again. The one thing I'll say that's a positive out of all these NIL deals in the transfer portal, and parity. Like, college football has got its parity back. You're not anymore going down to the national championship where it's going to be either Alabama, Clemson, or Ohio State. Right now, there's anywhere from 6 to 8 teams, I think, that are in contention to win the title. But I think a lot of people thought that the Heisman race was a foregone conclusion. It was just Caleb Williams' race to win. Got to tell you, man, this guy Michael Penix out in Washington really, really catching my eye. This guy
He's got game.
The guy's got game.
He's got game.
I mean, now listen, again, this could all come to schematics and game planning, but has the most yards thrown for in college football, has the most touchdowns. He's got Caleb Williams by 1 right now. He does have 2 interceptions, okay, but again, when you're throwing for the most yards, I mean, the mistakes you would think, there's just a higher probability that they could happen. So to throw for 400 more yards than his next closest competitor, I believe it is, and to have 16 touchdowns like that and only 2 interceptions relative to how many yards, guy's phenomenal. He's a lefty too. He can scramble. I mean, you've got 2 quarterbacks, I believe, coming out in this draft right now that it's just everything you want in the modern day quarterback. Mobility, arm strength, ability to read a defense, second chance opportunities. And what I mean by that is like, when the play is broken, for these guys, it's just beginning. Okay, so I don't know how much you've watched this guy, but I mean, man,
I've seen some of the highlights. Right, I'm a Caleb guy.
Sure,
right?
and I love Caleb.
Listen, I think he is going to win back-to-back Heismans. Okay, right. But
I think it's going to be those 2 when it's all said and done.
This is a rich quarterback draft. I'm going to throw, if I'm not mistaken, I think his name is Drake May.
NC State, right? Is it North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Yep,
he made that mistake, guys. All right, like come after him.
We gotta add an errors and omissions. I think part to this as well. But
no, he's got game. He's got a lot of game, right? So this is definitely a rich quarterback draft. I'm sure 2 or 3 guys are going to come out of nowhere.
I think Shador is actually going to stay. That's the word.
With
Dion wants him to stay. Wants to play with the brother.
There's not a lot of there's
and he's got a shot of being number 1 to the draft after
next year, and he won't get a second chance to play college ball with his father again. So, but he's also climbing up the charts. I think he's going to be a pro level quarterback. But no, it is exciting. Alabama is a little shaky, right? They got to get. They don't have a quarterback. They got to get their situation together. I don't know how much longer
Saban's got. I think Saban is a smart guy, and he has nothing left to prove at this point anymore.
I won't say that because everyone takes his talent. Right, Brian Daboll was on his staff. Right,
sure.
The Texas
to still maintain the level of consistency he has over the years.
Lane Kiffin, right? So he's lost so much, but yet Alabama is still top 5, still top 10. So I'm gonna give Nick all the respect.
He's the man. Like to me, he's the greatest college coach ever.
I think he still got it though. Yes, but I'm saying I think he still got it.
I just don't think he has anything to prove.
But where he's struggling is NIL,
sure,
and recruiting because now players are getting paid.
He's 72 or 73 years old. You think he's just going to all of a sudden pivot and like try to learn a whole new? I think you might be this might be if this isn't. I think next year could very well be Nick Saban's final year coaching college football.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Now, listen, he's too good to quit or walk away.
I don't think it's about too good. I think Nick Saban is a guy though. He wants to be at the top, and I think that. The coaching game now is totally changing. You got to be able to relate to these kids, talk on Snapchat and all these apps and the recruiting. And these kids are so much more self-aware in terms of themselves and what they want out of the experience now. And you can't be like the Bamas of the old where you could sit 5-star guys, 3 or 4 deep, all of a sudden they got to wait to play. No, if they're not going to play, they're just going to go transfer and go somewhere else.
I think Nick's going to pivot and he's going to find his quarterback for the next 3-4 years, right? And then
if he does that, maybe,
right? Because think about it, he had Tua, he had Mac Jones, right? He had Jalen Hurts, right?
AJ McCarron too back in the day, yeah.
Right, he's made good decisions, right? And he'll do it again. All right. He'll definitely do it.
We'll see, but. Some other surprises of the week, right? If we go to the pros, right? A few different games I think that people definitely didn't call out. Texans beating the Jags. And I mean, you talked about your buddy again.
Right?
Yeah.
So, listen.
He played great. Jags defense also was just though that defense was supposed to be good this year.
Yes, there's something going on with the Jags. There's something not clicking right now. I'm not 100% sure.
It's a little early season hangover. Right, read your own press clippings after making the AFC Championship last year.
Granted, you have Calvin Ridley coming in. They have the offensive weapons. They have the defensive weapons. They have an offensive coach. Right, there's just something missing. Yeah. Right, it's at the end of the day. Right, the first 3-4 weeks is really NFL preseason, and so I think that's what we're seeing with them.
That's why you can't overreact, right, to anything that you see within the first 3 weeks.
Except when you drop 70 points.
Give it time. Yeah.
Except when you drop 70 points.
Add that to the errors and omissions report right there, baby. Yeah.
So anyway, right? No, I think that's what's going on with the Jags. I think they'll get it together. And clearly, the Texans, C.J. Stroud, that coaching staff, they're implementing.
Nathaniel Tank Dell, man, balling out these last 2 weeks as well.
He had a nice surprise. I know fantasy lovers were loving him this past weekend.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And so, listen, I think there's a good...
Not me, because I have Nico Collins, and he kind of went, MIA. But, it's...
So, but yeah, no, that was a big surprise. Listen, the Colts-Baltimore game, right? Listen, Lamar, he's my guy, MVP. But you know what?
Had a little bit of a down game.
But, again, he had all the pressure on him. He accounted for 83% of their offense.
Yeah, they're starting to fall back in a little bit of that.
So, Beckham's hurt, right?
Colts defense, though, don't sleep on them. They were actually good last year.
Yeah, that D-line is very respectable, very respectable. But I still expected
Gardner Minshew,
more.
you said, he's a pro. He knows how to go out and win a game if you give him enough opportunity.
Exactly, definitely. So, that was also a big surprise, though. I expected more. It was in Baltimore.
Yeah.
It was the first start of Minshew on this team, so I expected more.
Okay. Packers over Saints, though. Let me ask you this, all right? Great game. Great comeback.
Good job, Jordan Love. Good job.
It was kind of boring at the first half because it seemed like the Saints were... Jordan Love for real? Don't say wait and see, man. 3 weeks is more than enough time.
I didn't say it.
Don't say wait and see.
I didn't say it.
You can't do that now.
I am not a believer.
We got production even in the back sitting there looking at him. Highly sus right now.
I am not a believer, right?
Okay.
I'll call it. I am not a believer in Jordan Love. That defense is doing the thing. They got a good running game. The coach is actually coaching, right? Matt LaFleur, right? So I'm not a believer yet. I'm not sold. Is he... impressive so far? Has he not made a ton of mistakes? Yes, but guess what? Before Derek Carr got hurt, it was 17-0.
Yeah.
Right? And that team...
Yep, I do think that changed things a lot because the offense wasn't moving quite the same.
More pressure on the defense.
Packers got more time. Yeah,
they scored a touchdown.
It was in Green Bay, too.
So, listen, I'm not sold yet on Jordan Love.
Okay. Listen... Chargers survive a week. The Vikings, I think, are about to just tear it down. They're
rebuilding. They're lying to their fan base, but they're rebuilding. Yeah. Ultimately, maybe they're going after Caleb Drake and your guy out in Washington, but there is something wrong right now in Minnesota. Clearly, they're rebuilding. They got rid of Dalvin. So, granted, they brought in Cam Akers.
The Chargers won. At least they survived another week.
Listen, that coach Staley was getting fired if he lost that game, and he got lucky to win it at the end.
There were rumblings about that throughout the week too.
Listen, that was a hot take, but it was a real take, I think. So he survived another week, but he's a defensive coach, and there's a problem with that defense. That's not a recipe that's going to keep them there a long time. And so, but hell of a game, a lot of points scored. But the Chargers are going to put up a lot of yards. So fantasy, you're going to love
still
them.
Still alive for right now, yeah.
But they're not what we thought they were.
Helped me a lot too, because now, and again, feel really bad for Mike Williams. He's out for the year.
Yeah.
Joshua Palmer, though, steps in and picks up right where him and Herbert kind of left off last year. Where I want to go with you right now, though, is, and we'll see if we have time for this last, but if not, maybe I can hit it at the top of the third segment. Stud of the week. Give me your stud of the week.
Like I mentioned, C.J. Stroud, very impressive. And because he's an Ohio State quarterback and they failed so much, right, I was impressed, and I'm going to give him my stud of the week.
Okay. Well, I told you I was going to step my game up this week. You had named a defensive player last week. Well, you know what? I went defense. Right now, the Cleveland Browns, number one overall defense in the league, number one in points, number one in overall yardage. And that has a lot to do with that. I don't even know if I can call him a man because that man is built like no creature I have ever seen.
He's a man giant?
Oh my, he looks like a gargoyle, man, how built he is. It's like built out of stone. Myles Garrett, 4 sacks, 4 hurries, multiple quarterback pressures, almost a 40% pressure rate on all of his snaps played in that game. When you're putting up stats like that with the best defense and you absolutely wreck the Tennessee Titans game plan, that's why you win my stud of the week. And he doesn't, again, maybe he was off to a little bit of a slow start, this year, stats-wise. But I feel like when that best defensive player of the whole league conversation comes up, I feel like this guy almost just gets lost in the sauce. If you look at his stats over the start of his career, they're phenomenal.
Well, a part of it, though, the team success also has
coincide,
to follow.
Sure.
So they won, right?
Yep.
I think it was 27-3. So they made a statement. That in itself was a surprise, right? They're going to put the league on notice.
That team is winning games because of that defense.
I agree, right? That offense got a lot going on. But we need to see more, right?
Sure.
If you're that good, then you know what? Defense, lead that team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you could get some respect.
Well, I hear you on that again. And listen, we're wrapping up segment 2 right now, but don't go away, all right? We're coming right back with the picks of the week. And if I have time, maybe a quick little early opener about something that I viewed during the week. But we'll be right back. What's up, everybody? We're back for the final segment. It's Run It Back Now. Before we get into our favorite part of the show, the pick segment, we all know I like it because, 2 weeks in a row. But I don't want to spoil the head. Yeah, we'll see. Quickly, I would like to say one thing, okay? The Giants obviously got beat up. They got hammered this week. And the reason that I'm even going to say this is because I'm a high school coach, and while I obviously want to go out and win, and I want my guys to be the best, sportsmanship, I think, is key. San Francisco 49ers, you beat us up. He and I have both been very high on your team. I think you guys are going to go very far. But the play towards the end of that game, okay, I don't know how else you could characterize it but a dirty hit. I'm talking about the one where Jake Brendel grabbed our defensive lineman's arm, DJ Davidson, and you can literally go and look up the clip on YouTube if we don't have it on this podcast through the edits. He literally tries to snap the guy's arm off. The reason I bring this up is because San Francisco, I have never seen you throughout my years of watching football or known you to be a dirty organization. Something at least needs to be said or addressed. I understand you guys are professionals. You're big, you're big boys. It's a little bit harder to talk to grown men like that. Someone needs to go and talk to that man because there's no place in sports for plays like that. It completely had nothing to do with the play. I don't even know the updated injury report on DJ Davidson. But I mean, let's go out here and play sports, okay, the right way. It's the NFL. It's violent enough as it is. Watch that clip. You all make a judgment for yourself. I don't think I'm being out of bounds. Jake Brendel, I don't know you as a man, but be better than that, man. Be better. You're a role model to kids all over the country. Watch you play, all right? Just be better. DJ Davidson, big up to you. I hope you're okay. I hope it's not serious and you can return this season. So I just wanted to go with that.
It was unnecessary. It was at the end of the game.
Out of
right?
line.
And listen, they're a better organization than that. So
they are.
I don't know what was said or what motivated him to do something like that, but there's nothing acceptable.
It was just bad, and I want to make sure that kids around the country who saw that, and just coaches in general, don't teach or coach or encourage that with your athletes, okay? We're all out here, again, just trying to go play sports and have fun.
Yeah, we all want to go home to our families.
And the life lessons.
Peace.
The life lessons. I mean, if that guy has a serious injury, you don't know. That could be a fringe roster player who all of a sudden now, because of that injury, can't go get a job. Yep. So, I mean, it's just those types of things. I just don't like seeing it, man. And that's the realest part of that, okay? Yeah. Gives us a reason to go and talk about, sports are their, our livelihoods, you know? So, and for him, that's literally how he makes a living. So, just be better and address it with that guy. I'm surprised the NFL office actually didn't see it and issue out a fine or something.
He might.
Don't know if it was handled internally, but it was bad. I didn't like it, and there's just no place in sports for any plays like that.
And we're not just saying that because that happened to the Giants, right?
No.
Like if that happened to
if I saw it anywhere.
Team,
I called out a couple of years ago when Odell Beckham and Josh Norman got into their crazy back and forth.
Game,
and Odell turned around and tried to spear him in the back of the helmet. Just no play. Play within the confines. You want to beat someone? Beat them within the whistle and within the rules of the game.
Yeah.
But I digress. Let's get to our picks. And I know you've all been wondering, where is that lovely, colorful hat? Oh, you know what? I didn't want to wear it for the whole broadcast, change up the interview. But I'll bring it back out now because, according to last week's pick,
you guys wonder why we got bad blood.
Sir, valiant effort. 9-7, you 2 games over 500 again. With your current standings now being at 26-22, 9-7 is still a good record. In the old NFL, that might have got you a wild card spot, end of the playoffs, sneak in there. But the thing is, if you're in a division with somebody else who goes 10-6, I mean, 10 is more than 9, 6 is less than 7.
Hey, be careful, Sean Payton. Okay, right? He's gonna talk that trash now.
You know what?
Right? You better bring that smoke next week.
Good point.
Right? Just saying.
I think the point at large, though, is what these pick segments are showing us through the first 3 weeks. We're both actually pretty decent at this. We're both above 500 right now. You're 4 games.
And if I knew Joe Burrow was playing, it would have been different.
Nah, I mean, listen, come see, come side. I mean, it's just, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
That's fair.
So, but we're right in the thick of things. So right now, you're 3 weeks in, 26-22 record. I am 27-21. So this is great, man. I mean, honestly, my favorite segment of the week, going back, talking forth. We're going to add a little bit of we're going to try to go a little bit faster on the picks here, but try to get a little
fantasy?
bit. Yeah, talk a little bit of fantasy on some of these matchups. Anything you like, dislike.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
So, being that, okay, we start off with, we were talking about this with your brother, okay, on the break, Detroit at Green Bay on Thursday.
We were just talking about Jordan Love.
Sure.
I told you, like, I'm not a believer. I'm a believer right now in that defense, that running game. And so the coaching staff has stepped it up.
Green Bay.
This is going to be a real test for them. But again, I'm not sold. The Lions impressed me last week. They had a dominating win, 20-3, if I'm not mistaken. They shut down that Falcons run game,
sure.
And so I anticipate them doing the same thing to Green Bay. Right now, it looks like the Lions are the class of that division.
We know if Jones will be back for that game yet, or is he still?
I think from an injury standpoint, like he's not official for the game yet,
okay.
Right? So, but I'm going with the Lions to make a statement. And take a lead in that division.
We agree here. I like the Lions too as well. I think that if this is now time to be your division, you need to go and beat up on a first year starting quarterback. Not first year in his career, but it's his first year starting as a quarterback. Yeah. You need to go in and you need to go handle some business. I like Detroit's defense too as well. Fantasy wise in this game, any of you guys who have Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's pretty much to me the definition of a must start every single week. He is a walking almost 15 to 20 points every single week.
Yep.
And then if he has that big week, I mean, who knows? But he's just guaranteed.
I like the running back, right?
Gibbs.
I think
been waiting for a big game from him all year.
And I think it's going to come this game. I think it's going to come this game.
I hope you're right. I hope you are right. I don't think there's any other crazy notables. I still don't think Christian Watson's back. A.J. Dillon's been underperforming. So, okay. So our next game. I like this game. This is an interesting one. Both teams coming off losses, too. Atlanta Falcons at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Really good game.
It is a good game.
It is in London, right? So
that is the London game.
That is
yes,
the London game.
That
so
is the early
fantasy-wise,
game.
be careful. It's always a little less passing yards, more running.
Big day for Bijan?
I definitely think a big day for Bijan.
Okay.
Definitely think a big day for Bijan. I think we're going to see less passing yards. Hopefully, it's a get-right game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Right?
I tend to think it will be.
When you just lose to the Tennessee Titans the way you did, it's going to be real interesting. Now, they're more experienced. They've been to London more frequently.
Sure.
Right? So, they have the experience of the travel versus the Falcons.
Yep.
It's going to be Bijan's first time. I think it's going to be that coaching staff's first time out in London. So, I am rocking with the Jacksonville Jaguars in that game.
Well, we agree on this game, too, as well. I just feel like Jacksonville, like, that's your division. You can't, again, I think that everything will kind of equal out through time with some of these other teams and their early performances. Mm-hmm. But Jacksonville, I think this is a get-right game, too, as well. You made the points abundantly clear. In terms of fantasy, I think I like your thought process in terms of probably more running type oriented games. Yeah. That's why you got to go and look at a guy like Travis Etienne. I think probably has a decent game, and then who knows? Maybe Tank Bigsby kind of breaks out a little bit. And they use him on.
But I was sitting like a Christian Kirk, right?
I wouldn't go with
start.
Yeah.
Ridley.
No,
but
I wouldn't go too crazy with the receivers in this game.
Not at all.
So we both like Jacksonville. Okay. Here's one where I think that we're gonna split. This is my game of the week, 1 o'clock at Buffalo.
Ooh,
Miami Dolphins
baby.
at the Buffalo Bills. We're going to split up.
Hey, listen, I can tell you I'm bringing the egg. I'm bringing the egg next week, episode 6.
I will take the egg.
There's no question who I'm picking.
That's got to be at the end of the show, though, because I can't be doing the whole show with egg in my head.
Yes, I think we can. Why let America wait?
There are breaks.
America, I'm not going to let you wait.
That's
right?
fine.
Because the Dolphins, they're going to start fast. They're going to finish fast. They're going to beat down the Bills. I'm 36-24. Miami Dolphins make a statement. Not frauds.
All righty. So he takes Miami. I'm going to take Buffalo. All right. I like where Buffalo is trending right now. I like the balance.
He's got to take Buffalo. He's trying to avoid the egg America. It's not about the Bills.
I like their balance on offense. I think they found themselves a future stud running back in Mr. James Cook.
Top 5 right now. I think he's doing
top
some
5.
good
I think
things.
he's second right now in yards right now. So he's the guy, especially from a standpoint of, and again, granted, they played the Jets who have a monster defense. He didn't do a ton in that first game. So for him to have done all of his work in these last 2 games to get himself second overall in rushing, I think that's very impressive.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you're a believer in Josh Allen? You think he's going to step up and make good decisions?
I do.
You think they're going to be able to keep up with that offense?
Well, here's what I'll say to you right now. I kind of feel like Buffalo almost kind of has to look at this game as a must-win because it's like if you go 2-2 and Miami goes 4-0, now you basically almost have to re-gear your focus somewhat into we got to just earn the next spot. We got to have the record to at least get us a wild card bid because Miami just doesn't seem like if they go and beat Buffalo, where are the signs of them slowing down? So I'm hinting at, like, if Miami goes and wins, I'll sit there and say, oh, wow, they're legit. The reason I also like Buffalo in this game, though, is that defense, man. That defense is one of the top 5 defenses in the league right now. Second, I believe, overall in total sacks. If you're going to go and beat Miami, you're going to have to go and put some pressure on their quarterback.
They played the Commanders and Sam Howell. All the fantasy players that started Sam Howell, I'm sorry for you.
That was a rough game for him, man. Right? 5 interceptions? Poor guy.
Pretty bad. But guess what? That's not going to happen with Tua.
Okay.
Right? 2.2 seconds, getting the ball out to Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle should be back.
This one.
Right? Running game.
Oh, and they're doing this also, too, without Von Miller even in the lineup. They're second over the league in sacks. So, I mean, Buffalo defense is good.
I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
The Bills already lost to the Jets. If they lose this game, go 0-2 in the division,
that's
they're done.
What I'm saying. I think there's a lot of pressure.
I don't know if Josh could handle the pressure and make good decisions. He is leading the league in turnovers over the last 3 or 4 years.
He is. It's definitely a problem. Who do you like fantasy in this? You like anyone fantasy-wise?
Oh, my God. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, obviously. Again, I think Mostert, right?
I don't think Waddle. We got to find out the status of Waddle.
Yeah, we'll see. He might be 80%.
There's a Shane.
But I do like...
Does a Shane put up round 2?
I think this is a Mostert game, right? Okay. Shane, had one good week, right? I think you're going to lean on... It's an important game. I think you're going to lean on that experience with Raheem Mostert. Yeah. I think they're going to have a really good game plan, and I think he should have 2 touchdowns. So I would play him, Tyreek, in fantasy. And obviously, Tua's going to light up that secondary.
Okay, all right. I like Cook in this game. I like Buffalo to kind of play a little bit of big boy ball, flex their muscle on the offensive and defensive lines, slow this game down, and make it kind of more of a grind-out pace.
If I'm not mistaken, you talked about, right, the Dolphins team having multiple sacks, right?
6 players with at least 1 sack. 6 players with at least 1 sack. So they can get after the quarterback, too.
Remember that.
So it's going to be a good game.
Remember that.
So we're split on that one. Oh, boy. This is no disrespect to each of the teams, but I mean, this is basically the Irrelevancy Bowl. Denver at Chicago. The battle of who will win.
Do we have to pick
their
this
first
one?
Game. We do.
Listen, I have...
It's at Chicago.
But you know what? Like I said, I am a believer in Sean Payton. He has to step up. There's too much going wrong with that team, and I think he'll get it together. The Bears are a disaster. I think there's no leadership on the coaching staff. There's no faith in Justin Fields. They're losing the fan base, made bad decisions in the offseason. There's too much going wrong with the Bears right now. And I think quickly they're going to pivot. He hasn't won a game in almost a year. I don't expect that to change.
Okay.
I think it's going to be an ugly game, but Denver Broncos put up 24 points to 14 to take down the Bears.
So I actually think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring just because both of these defenses have not really shown an ability to stop anybody through 3 weeks, which is why I kind of like it from a fantasy perspective. I agree with you, by the way, on the outcome. I think Denver's going to win. Maybe Javonte Williams finally has like his get-right game against Denver. Pacheco just had his best game of the year against the Bears. So, I mean, I like that trend. I'd like to see Javonte Williams get right and return back to the form he was pre-injury. Maybe this is the game he does it. I also like Denver receivers in this game, too, as well, to light up the scoreboard. I do think Fields will put up, like, some numbers just because Denver's defense, they just gave up 70 points.
See, I disagree with you.
Okay.
Right? I think this is a get-right game for the Denver defense.
All right.
Van Joseph, you gave up 70 points. You give up 28 points to the Bears? That's a problem. Yeah. So I think it's a get-right game. He was embarrassed. That team was embarrassed. Again, NFL players got a lot of pride, so I expect a good overall team performance.
Okay. I can tell you right now, I would stay away from this game fantasy-wise, and people are going to be going to the infirmary after this game because it is going to be hard-nosed, smash-mouth football. We got Baltimore at Cleveland.
Ooh. Woo, baby.
That's a tough game to pick, man.
That's a tough game.
Because Lamar played well up until this last week. They put a little bit too much on his shoulders going up against the best defense in football right now.
Your guy, right? Your stud of the week, Myles Garrett. Where are you going with this?
Man, so it's at Cleveland. This is a tough game. Both teams 2-1. You know what? No, I'm going to go with Baltimore. I'm going to go with Baltimore to, I think at the end of the day, stars will shine through. Lamar will find a way. He'll pull this team to victory. I'm interested to see the game plan. I think this is a very low-scoring game. Nobody to watch for in fantasy. I'm going Baltimore.
Listen, I guess his stud of the week is only good for 1 week, all right? But I'm rocking with B more. Lamar's going to step up, even though Cleveland is number one in defense. It would be low scoring. Right? I have more faith in Lamar, that team, that coaching staff. Hopefully some players get better. But I'm rocking with the Ravens in that game.
Okay. Another game that I really don't like fantasy-wise, I can tell you firsthand because I have a bunch of them on my team. Cincinnati at Tennessee. What do you got?
Cincinnati at Tennessee.
This is a really tough game. But we didn't even talk about earlier just what Cincinnati's doing. We'll maybe talk about that next week based on this
I think it's clear they made a mistake. They should have sat Joe Burrow those first 2 weeks. You were already 0-2.
Clearly compromised right now.
Clearly compromised.
Anybody watching that game last night could tell.
Best case scenario, he could have been 80, 85% now, and you could have had a better start to the season, or have a better second half of the season. Now he's going to sort of be a little hesitant all throughout the year. That injury is going to linger. God forbid it turns into an Achilles.
I really hope
so. That's tough. But I do think in terms of who do I want to put my faith in, if Joe Burrow is going to play, I'm going to rock with the Bengals in this one. Even though the Titans were embarrassed, only put up 3 points, I think the Bengals defense.
They played well last night.
They did well, so I think they're going to rally
stopping the run
around their quarterback. They got a lot of respect for Joe Cool, and the fact that he's showing up after he got paid earns a lot of street cred that he already had, right?
Sure.
And so
when you pay someone like that, I think that's why he's out there, because he knows what's expected.
He feels
of him
the responsibility.
He
feels the responsibility.
And you cannot respect him for that.
100%. So I'm rocking with the Bengals.
But sometimes I think you got to protect a player from himself, like kind of what you were talking about before. Let's see where this season goes, but I wouldn't mind if things go awry, maybe trying to sit him for a couple of weeks. But we'll see. We both agree. I like Cincy as long as Burrow is playing. Another interesting game, Rams at Indy.
A really good game. That defensive line matchup, right? That Colts
two defenses playing well
versus Aaron Donald. But
he was all over the place last night, man.
Over the place, right? So I think that's going to be an interesting game. But I think the Colts are coming off of a high, right? Minshew is a professional. The Rams lost a close one, so I'm going to go with the Rams and Stafford. Your favorite rookie receiver, right?
Puka
Nacua, right?
So fourth right now overall in yards. He's just got to get a TD.
He's doing the damn thing, so I'm going to go with the Rams.
And second overall in receptions. I like the Rams too as well. You kind of hinted at it. The Colts coming off like that major high, beating Baltimore. I think they somewhat kind of plateau a little bit. Mm-hmm. And the Rams, McVay. He didn't really get after the running game a ton last night, too. I think McVay fixes up his play calling, a little bit more balanced scheme. I like the Rams. I do think that's another game, though, that's rather low scoring based on the way both of the defenses have been playing. Mm-hmm. But I like the Rams. Not anybody that's really... You know what? Kyron Williams has been a solid fantasy pick so far, so roll with him.
Listen, I'll call it Puka Nacua, first touchdown.
Oh, I have Puka Nacua. I hope you're right, man. I really do. Tampa Bay at New Orleans. So kind of both these teams want this win.
Absolutely. So I think Derek Carr is hurt.
Yes.
Right? He's going to be out sometime.
Yeah.
The way that defense fell apart when he went down with that injury, it makes me question whether the team is a believer in Jameis Winston.
Sure.
So with this particular game, I'm going to go with the
offense
Bucs.
looked completely different when he came in.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Bucs, right? They feel inspired with Baker Mayfield right now. I think that coaching
defense
staff
played tough last night. They just got worn down, though.
And listen, the Bucs have always played the Saints tough, even when Tom Brady was there. Yep. So I think I'm going to rock with the Bucs on this one. I think it's also going to be a close game, 21-18 Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I just like Tampa because I just feel like now the quarterback really makes all the difference. They're just going to be able to make some bigger plays down the stretch that New Orleans is kind of be devoid of. So I like them too as well. I like Mike Evans. He's off to a nice hot start this season.
Surprising,
so far. He's
very surprising.
He's really
very
tearing
surprising.
it up.
I know fantasy lovers are loving him because you're able to steal him in the 6th or 7th round.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and again, the guy is a consummate professional. Every single year that he's been in the NFL, he's had 1,000 yards receiving. This year,
and
looks
guess what?
different.
They still don't want to pay him.
I know. It's the age. It really just comes down to the age. But they got to figure this out at some point. Guy, you pay them for the work that they're still doing. Yes. If he's still producing, then he should be paid.
Short-term contract, I agree.
Yeah. So again, we flip to Washington coming after a rough game. They got bludgeoned by the Bills. They go to Philly to face the Eagles. Unfortunately, I think this is another one we're going to probably agree on.
Listen, the Eagles have been winning ugly. I think this will be a statement game. Granted, the Commanders were embarrassed. I do think it'll be a little bit of a high-scoring game.
Okay.
And so I think 30-24 Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I like Philly in this game again. I think Washington got brought back down to earth hard this past week.
Very much.
Can the quarterback, again, he's young. I mean, he's got time, but can he rebound off a performance like 5 interceptions? That's got to be really tough into your psyche.
The only place to go is
yeah, that's true. But Philly's
he's
defensive line right now looks like it's starting to round into form. They were getting after Baker last night.
But guess what? Divisional opponent, right?
Yeah, you never know. Yes. You never know. Yeah. They know each other well. But I like Philly in this game. I agree with you. I do think it's on the higher scoring side because I think Washington tries to put up an effort. But, I like Philly in this game. And obviously, take DeAndre Swift, take Jalen Hurts. I mean, those guys are just... Mm-hmm. Swift is either going to get yards or touchdowns. You know Jalen Hurts is going to get touchdowns.
From a fantasy standpoint, A.J. Brown taking for a touchdown. Jalen Hurts is going to continue to force feed him. So look out for that.
Maybe throw a touchdown to Dallas Goedert for people who have him on fantasy. Just saying. I mean,
don't waste your time, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a lost cause for me in the Dynasty League.
Agreed.
Minnesota at Carolina. Another team will get it.
Where are you going with this game?
Dalton starting again?
I believe so.
Wow. It's a tough game to call. Carolina just lost to the Seahawks. I'm going to go Minnesota.
He's struggling, America.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit with this one. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go Minnesota. Okay. And the only reason I'm going to go Minnesota...
Captain Kirk?
Kirk's been playing great. Kirk is not the problem right now. Kirk leading the league in touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, leading the league in yards too as well. Like, Kirk is not the issue. For all these people that are insulting or calling him out, Kirk can't do this, can't do that, Kirk is playing well. The defense has got to stop somebody at some point.
Yeah.
And again, it's regression to the mean. It's all the games that they were winning last year. So far now they've lost 3 close ones. While I like Carolina's defense... that offense still just hasn't really shown me much. Maybe Dalton with a week of practice, it's a little bit better. But I like Minnesota simply. Wait a second. Is Jefferson playing?
Oh, yeah. Why not?
He's playing? Okay. So I know he went out a little bit late in the game with some type of injury. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't
I didn't see
long-term.
anything that he had a long-term.
Yeah, I'll go with Minnesota.
Well, I'm rocking with the Carolina Panthers, right?
So it's got to pick up some games on me, America.
We disagree on this one. Listen, I've seen a lot of healthy signs from the Carolina Panthers. I think this is. I think they're going to run the ball more this game, right? With Miles Sanders, they missed a lot of that in the Seattle game, and at the end of the day, I'm just not a believer in the Minnesota Vikings. So even though this is a pick amongst 2 bad teams, I like the defense of the Carolina Panthers. I expect Andy Dalton to be a professional. Him and Adam Thielen has had a nice little connection. So I think this is where the Carolina pick up their first win right here. It's at home.
It's just so hard for me to see in Minnesota 0-4, but maybe they will be. We'll see. Pittsburgh at Houston.
So listen, hey, CJ Stroud, really nice. My stud of the week. I think he's going to do well, but
you're picking the Steelers.
I'm picking the Steelers. That Texans offensive line is hurt. The Steelers
going up against
have
the number
momentum.
one sack defense in the
TJ
league.
Watt, Steelers in 27-17 type of a game.
Yeah, I think it's low scoring again, but I have the Steelers too as well. I'm going to trust my eyes and think that that defense is just going to be too overwhelming for the Houston Texans up front. As I had mentioned before, leading the league in sacks right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of that has to do with our boy TJ Watt. Mm-hmm. Man is an animal, endless motor. Yeah, I like the Steelers in that game. Nah, I don't know if that's a great fantasy game either, just because I think it's going to be low scoring.
Agreed.
And Houston won't put up quite the numbers that they normally do. Las Vegas at Los Angeles.
Listen, everything in me wants to take the Chargers, but this is going to be my upset of the week. Whoa. I think the Raiders take them down.
Okay.
They've lost 2 in a row. But I have no confidence in the Chargers. Eckler's not back yet. Derwin James got hurt, and so I think a divisional opponent. They know each other well, and so I think the Raiders are going to step up here, have a surprise win, high-scoring game. But ultimately, bad coaching decisions will cause the Chargers to lose and the Raiders to accidentally win. 34-31 Raiders.
I think this is a shootout.
Big Devontae Adams game. Big Devontae Adams.
I think this is a shootout. So I agree with you, high scoring. I just disagree with the winner. I think it's going to be the Chargers. I think this is a great fantasy game to pick up guys on either side.
Yep.
The playmakers. I think you're going to see a lot of points on the board. When it just comes down to it, I mean, I think this is 2 bad coaches, respectively. I don't think either of them really have it figured out. But the one thing, too, is I don't know if Jimmy G is going to play. He's in concussion protocol currently right now. If it's a Herbert versus Hoyer matchup, I mean, I like
then,
the Chargers.
Then I would pivot, right? So can I have a pivot? Right, if
he wants caveats here. But what if this happens, or what if that happens? You see this folding like a cheap tent right in front of your eyes, America.
With that new information, I will take the Chargers.
Alrighty,
I'll take the Chargers.
Alrighty, he goes there. Yeah, I mean you got to stay up to date on all these things, sir. New England at Dallas.
I'm going with New England. I think there is issues in Dallas.
Whoa.
So New England Patriots. They won't give up more than...
That's an upset of the week right there.
They won't give up more than 15 points to the Dallas Cowboys. 21-15, New England Patriots.
All right, well, we disagree here. I mean, I expect Dallas... Again, I'm not going to judge a team by their worst performance. I've been pretty high on Dallas, even though I don't like them, division rival. But I expect Dallas to get right this game. New England's defense is good. Top 5.
If you struggle against the Arizona Cardinals, Bill Belichick is going to eat up the Dallas Cowboys for lunch.
Yeah, I think sometimes it does just come down to talent, too, and I just think Dallas will get right this game. But I do like your pick, and again, I wouldn't be shocked if New England would find a way. Great defensive team. Arizona, San Fran.
Listen, the 49ers will be prepared. At the end of the day, them and the Dolphins, best team in the league. They will not sleepwalk here. 28-17, 49ers.
Yeah, I like San Fran too as well. They just, like I said, team on a mission. I like them in fantasy too as well. Debo just had his breakout game, so I mean, I expect big things from him. McCaffrey is ripping up the league right now, most yards. I think he's top 2 or 3 in touchdowns. The only thing I don't love is the carries, which you talked about last week, but they started to work Elijah Mitchell into there last week. So I think they're going to slowly start to pull back some up from that, but I like San Fran, and I like them fairly comfortably. Kansas City at New York Jets.
Listen, I'm not betting against the Chiefs.
Don't do it.
Listen,
Don't do it.
Kelsey is motivated with his Swift Nation, right? And so,
like I said, they shook off that early start. They just shook it off.
Win. Oh my God.
It's,
now we got back.
I'm gonna let the viewers decide if that stays or goes.
Anyway, right? The Chiefs are only giving up 12 points a game. 24-12.
Yeah, I mean, you got to respect the Jets defense, but I like Kansas City too as well. Their offense seems to be rounding into form.
The last game.
Yeah.
Giants.
Yes.
Versus
Giants
the
versus Seahawks.
Where are you going with it? Let America know.
Listen, we're at home. I think to me this is a must-win game for the Giants. Interesting stat I saw. They played each other in total 20 times. They're 10-10 against each other.
Ooh,
and I believe it's the home team that usually has the overwhelming winning percentage. So I'm going to go with the G-Men. The Seahawks have been solid this year, but they haven't been overpowering or overwhelming. I like the Giants in a get-right game. They kind of need this game, too, because the schedule coming up is a bear. So, I mean, you got to get this one. At least get yourself to 500 right now. Right now, the class of the division is the Eagles.
I got one question for you. Saquon playing?
Saquon, I don't think is playing.
Then it's the Seattle Seahawks.
Wow, he goes to Seattle Seahawks. Well, listen, that wraps up our picks for this week 3. I am Shane Mallory with
Ricky DaCosta.
And we will see you next week on episode 6 when we
run it back.
Run it back.